Listen closely, my friends. Stop asking, when will it come, and start asking, how does it feel now that it is here? The one undeniable sign, the law at work, is the feeling that your desire is completely natural. It is done. It is done. It is done. There comes a moment right before your life expands when something inside you grows quiet, not defeated, not tired, just quiet, as if a deeper layer of you steps forward and whispers, "Pay attention. Something is shifting." You may not see anything changing on the surface yet. The bills look the same. The messages on your phone look the same. Your routine feels familiar. And still, there is a subtle movement happening within you, almost like a soft tide returning to shore. You can feel it in the way your breath slows when you think about what you truly want. You can feel it in the way your body reacts when you imagine a life that once felt too big for you. Before the world gives you any sign, the sign begins here, inside the quiet space where your new reality is already forming. Maybe you're listening now because something in you is tired of chasing proof, tired of needing the universe to show you something before you allow yourself to believe. You've had moments of faith so strong they felt unshakable, followed by days where doubt wrapped around you like a heavy fog. You've had mornings when you woke up certain that your manifestation was close, and nights where you wondered if any of this works at all. You're not wrong for feeling this way. You're not behind. You're not blocked. You're not broken. You're simply standing at the threshold where the old self loosens its grip and the new self is preparing to emerge. That space can feel confusing, empty, or even lonely. But it is in this space that the signs begin to unfold, not as flashes in the outer world, but as awakenings inside the one who is ready to receive. As you sit here, listening, something is already shifting in your inner landscape. Not as a thought you think, but as a presence you feel. Neville Goddard often said that signs follow, they never precede, and that means this moment of awareness you're touching right now is itself evidence that something immense is forming. Before the world rearranges, your perception rearranges. Before the path appears, your consciousness rises. Before the desire materializes, your identity begins to prepare room for it. You're not imagining this transition, you're responding to it. Something in you is shedding an old way of being, an old assumption, an old fear. And even if the outer world hasn't caught up yet, your inner world is already declaring, "I am ready." Let your breath deepen as you listen to these words, not as information but as confirmation. Allow yourself to feel the subtle vibration of possibility in your chest, the warmth spreading across your ribs, the gentle pull in your belly, a physical echo of the truth you've tried to ignore. You're entering a new reality. Not someday, not soon, now. Your body knows it before your mind understands it. Your intuition senses it before circumstances reveal it. Your heart prepares before your hands can hold it. What you're experiencing in this moment is not coincidence. It is alignment gathering itself inside you. And so, as we begin this journey together, release the need to chase signs. Release the need to predict how or when. Release the pressure you place on yourself to constantly stay positive or high vibrational. You don't manifest through effort. You manifest through alignment. You manifest through the quiet acceptance of what is already yours. Today, I'm not here to give you tricks or formulas. I'm here to help you recognize what is already happening within you, those subtle, sacred, undeniable signals that appear when a huge manifestation is already on its way. Let every word settle into you like warm light. Let every insight become a mirror, showing you who you're becoming. Let this introduction be the doorway. You're stepping into a new state of consciousness now. And nothing in your world will remain the same once you learn to see from this place. You may feel torn between excitement and fear, between belief and doubt, because the mind still craves something concrete to hold on to. You might catch yourself scanning for clues, analyzing conversations, looking for synchronicities, hoping the universe will give you a nod of confirmation. And when nothing seems to appear, the mind whispers its old story again. Maybe it isn't working. Maybe nothing is happening. Maybe you're fooling yourself. But the lack of external evidence is not a warning. It is an invitation, a sacred test of perception, a moment where you are asked to stop searching outside and start recognizing what is happening within. When you hear that old voice of doubt, pause. Feel the truth underneath it. Something has already shifted, and part of you knows that the world is simply catching up to your new identity. Signs follow, they do not precede, and that means the absence of signs is not a void, It is proof that the seed has just been planted. Right now, beneath the surface of your life, a new structure is forming. Your consciousness has already altered itself enough to carry a more expanded version of you. You don't see it because it is still growing in the invisible, and the invisible is always where the real work happens. The earth does not tremble when a seed splits open. The soil does not announce that something new is breaking through. Growth happens quietly, and then one day, without warning, the first sprout appears. So if you feel nothing is changing, look again. Your reactions are changing. Your imaginal world feels more real than it did before. Your old fears don't hold you the way they used to. Something inside you has matured. That is the signal. Still, it is hard sometimes, isn't it? Especially when the reflection seems to oppose what you are consciously choosing. You may be imagining abundance while your bank account displays a number that makes your stomach tighten. You may be embodying love while certain relationships continue to echo old patterns of distance or misunderstanding. You may be cultivating a new self-image while the world reflects memories of the person you used to be. But remember this truth: the mirror always shows the past, never the present. What you see outside is a delayed echo of who you were, not who you are becoming. The mind forgets this. It panics when the outer picture contradicts the inner vision. Yet the moment you understand that the reflection is simply outdated, something shifts in your chest. You stop taking circumstances personally. You stop negotiating your worth based on old conditions. You begin to trust the inner shift more than the outer shell. And that trust is transformative. When you no longer expect the world to guide you, you free yourself from the constant search for validation. You stop scanning for signs that your desire is near. You realize that signs cannot lead you. They can only follow you. The world rearranges itself around your state of being, not the other way around. This is why your emotions, your assumptions, your quiet self-talk matter far more than anything happening around you. When you change your inner atmosphere, the mirror must eventually shift to match it. It has no choice. It does not have a will of its own. It only reflects. There is a deep kind of peace that comes when you start seeing the world this way. You no longer fear your circumstances because you understand their origin. You no longer feel powerless because you recognize that nothing outside you can define you unless you accept it internally. The mirror stops feeling threatening and starts feeling like a silent companion, showing you the invisible patterns that ask to be released and confirming the new patterns that are beginning to solidify. Every reflection becomes a message, not about what to do, but about who you are choosing to be. Yet for so long, you may have questioned your desires. You may have wondered why you want so much when your circumstances seem so small, why your dreams feel expansive, while your life feels restricted. You may have carried guilt for wanting more than what others around you settled for. You may have feared that your desires were unrealistic or selfish or somehow beyond your reach. But if desire truly is the voice of the divine speaking through you, then resisting your desire is resisting the very expansion you were created for. The ache you feel is not an ache for something outside you. It is the ache of your inner self stretching beyond its old boundaries, preparing you for a new level of being. Notice how your body responds when you imagine the life you deeply want. There is a warmth, a pulse, a subtle quickening of breath. Something inside you comes alive, as if your cells recognize the frequency of that future. This physical response is not random. It is guidance. It is confirmation that the desire is aligned with your highest expression, and yet the mind often doubts it. The mind wants proof, logic, timelines, explanations. The heart quietly says, "Feel this." The mind replies, "How?" The heart whispers, "Trust." The mind asks, "When?" This is the tension every manifestor knows, but beneath that tension is a truth that cannot be denied. Your desire is not asking you to figure anything out. It is only asking you to accept that it is already yours in essence. When you stop running from your desires and start listening to them, something extraordinary happens. The fear dissolves, the guilt melts, the hesitation fades. Because you realize that desire is not trying to tempt you, it is trying to awaken you. It is not trying to pull you away from your life. It is trying to pull you deeper into your true one. Every desire carries within it the energy of fulfillment. The moment it appears in your awareness, its corresponding reality begins forming in the unseen. That is why certain desires stay with you for years while others fade quickly. The persistent ones are not random wishes. They are instructions. They are the blueprint of the person you are meant to become. And so when you feel that inner restlessness, that subtle longing, that gentle pull toward a life that feels larger than the one you are living now, do not dismiss it. Do not shrink it to fit your old identity. Do not silence it because circumstances have not yet aligned. The desire itself is the alignment. The desire itself is the sign. It carries the promise that you are ready to embody a new state of consciousness. You do not need to force it. You only need to recognize it as the divine language of your own becoming. If this is awakening something in you, subscribe. Your inner shifts shape your reality, and each new teaching helps you strengthen the state you're becoming. You may have spent years thinking of the life you want, imagining it as an image in the distance, something you look at but never fully touch. And that distance, that separation, is what keeps the desire suspended outside your experience. Thinking of the end keeps the dream on a pedestal. Thinking from the end brings it into your body. When you think from the end, you begin to feel a subtle shift in your posture, in your breath, in the tone of your inner voice. Your mind quiets because it has nothing left to chase. Your heart opens because it recognizes the frequency of what you are embodying. Your nervous system relaxes because you are no longer reaching. You are remembering. In this state, the desire becomes familiar, natural, almost inevitable. There is a moment within this practice when you begin to notice that your imagination feels more real than your circumstances. The scene you return to, the self you inhabit there, the feeling you cultivate begins to feel like home. This is not delusion. This is identity shifting, neuroplasticity, the reorganization of your internal chemistry to match the emotional signature of the life you are choosing. This is why Neville insisted that feeling is the secret. Because thinking from the end is not an intellectual exercise, it is an emotional relocation. You relocate your inner residence to the world where your desire is already complete, and you allow your outer world to rearrange accordingly. Your body responds to this shift long before your circumstances do. A calm settles over you. A certainty forms without needing evidence. Your thoughts begin to align with the new self-image you are nurturing. If you have ever wondered why manifestation sometimes feels difficult, it is because you have been viewing your desire from the outside, watching it, analyzing it, questioning its arrival. That creates separation. And separation is the only real obstacle. When you think from the end, that separation dissolves. The desire no longer feels like something you are trying to reach. It feels like something that is reaching you. You stop waiting for signs because you have already crossed the inner threshold where the desire is real. And once you cross that threshold, everything begins to change. The conversations you attract, the opportunities that appear, the impulses you feel, the choices you make. Without forcing anything, your behavior naturally begins to align with the person who already has what you once hoped for. You may notice that the bridge rarely looks the way the mind expects. The mind wants linear progression, predictable steps, a clear map. But manifestation unfolds like a tapestry, woven by a part of you that sees from a higher vantage point. What may appear to be delays, detours, or disruptions are often the exact movements required to align you with what you have chosen internally. Sometimes the bridge feels gentle, intuitive, almost effortless. Other times it feels like the dismantling of everything familiar, as if the old version of your life is quietly dissolving to make room for something greater. And even though this process can feel unsettling, there is a deeper order to it. Nothing is accidental, nothing is wasted, nothing is out of place. There may be moments along this bridge where you question whether things are falling apart instead of coming together. You might experience unexpected endings, sudden changes, or emotional waves that catch you off guard, but look beneath the surface. Feel the subtle direction of your life. What seems like collapse is often release. What seems like coincidence is often alignment. What seems like confusion is often reorganization. When you have assumed the end, all of life begins to flow toward that end, even if the route feels unfamiliar. The bridge is not meant to resemble the fulfillment. It is meant to lead you there with precision. And perhaps the most powerful part of this process is that you do not need to guide it. You do not need to figure out every step, nor micromanage the timing. The bridge of incidents is constructed by the larger dimension of your being, the part of you that Neville described as your higher self, your deeper consciousness, your eternal awareness. This part of you knows every person, every opportunity, every sequence required to bring your fulfillment into visibility. It orchestrates with a wisdom beyond logic, arranging even the smallest details with perfect timing. When you surrender the need to interfere, you begin to walk the bridge with trust instead of tension. As these events unfold, pay attention to the subtle shifts within you. Notice how your reactions begin to change. Notice how situations that once triggered fear now awaken curiosity. Notice how conversations that appear out of nowhere carry the exact energy you need. This is the bridge working through you. It is not always obvious while you are in it, but it becomes undeniable when you look back and see how perfectly everything aligned. The bridge of incidents is one of the clearest signs that a manifestation is unfolding, not because it looks like the end result, but because it moves you toward it in ways your rational mind could never design. This realization can feel heavy at first, especially when you look at relationships that have been painful or disappointing. You may think of moments when you loved deeply but were not met at the same depth, times when you gave more than you received, situations where you felt overlooked, undervalued, or misunderstood. It is natural to want to change the other person, to wish they behaved differently, to hope they finally recognized your worth. But the moment you try to change another, you step outside the true power of manifestation. Because others cannot consistently show you anything that contradicts your own assumptions. They can try. They can attempt to love you beyond your self-doubt. They can offer kindness beyond your inner resistance. But eventually the mirror reflects the inner state. It must. When you understand this, something in you begins to soften. You stop looking outward for the shift and begin turning inward with honesty. Not blame, not self-criticism, not shame. Simply awareness. An awareness that says, if this is my reflection, then I have the power to transform it. And that awareness is the beginning of freedom. Because the moment you revise your self-concept, the world reorganizes itself to match it. People who once dismissed you suddenly notice you. Relationships that were stagnant begin to move. Those who resonated with your old patterns quietly drift away, making space for those who match the new frequency you embody. None of this requires force. None of it requires explanation. It happens naturally because the mirror cannot resist the image it reflects. Think of the times in your life when you felt undeserving, insecure, or uncertain. Notice how the world seemed to confirm those feelings with uncanny accuracy. Conversations echoed your fears. Circumstances mirrored your doubts. Opportunities aligned with your limitations. This was not punishment. It was reflection. And now think of the moments when you felt confident, aligned, worthy, grounded in your power. The world shifted then too, didn't it? People were drawn to you. Things unfolded smoothly. Possibilities opened. This is the same principle at work, revealing itself again and again. No one changes until you do. And when you change, everything must follow. This chapter is one of the most profound signs that a manifestation is near. Because right before your new reality appears, your relationships begin to shift in noticeable ways. Some grow deeper, some fade, some transform completely. These changes are not random. They are indicators that your inner state is rewriting the script of your interactions. You are no longer relating from your old wounds. You are relating from the version of yourself that already holds the fulfillment you seek. And as that identity strengthens, your world begins to reflect it with precision. You may notice this process not through dramatic events, but through subtle emotional shifts. The things that once triggered you begin to lose their power. The relationships that depended on your old wounds no longer feel aligned. The habits that once comforted you now feel dull, lifeless, or hollow. You may find yourself longing for silence, for space, for a kind of internal stillness that you cannot fully explain. This is the old self dimming, not in defeat, but in surrender. It has served its purpose. It carried you as far as it could. And now, with compassion, it begins to step aside. The art of dying is not about rejecting who you were. It is about releasing what no longer aligns with who you are choosing to be. And this release often comes with moments of uncertainty. You might feel suspended between two worlds, the familiar identity fading, the new identity not yet solid. This in-between can feel disorienting, even lonely, because the mind clings to the known while the soul moves toward expansion. But this is the very moment when the manifestation is closest. The emptiness you feel is not a void. It is space being cleared. Space where the new state can take root. Space where the old assumptions lose their influence. Space where the future you have already assumed begins to breathe. As this inner dying occurs, the body responds with reverence. Your breath deepens, your chest softens, your nervous system begins to uncoil from patterns of survival it has carried for years. You may feel waves of emotion, grief, relief, tenderness, stillness, each one a sign that the old self is releasing its hold. These emotions are not setbacks, they are transitions. Every state you embody has a life cycle, and the state you lived in before your assumption must complete its cycle now. It cannot follow you into the fulfillment. It dissolves the moment you truly inhabit the end. There is beauty in this dissolution, a quiet beauty that reveals itself in the smallest of moments, when you no longer react the way you once did, when you hear your own voice speaking from a deeper place, when you catch yourself imagining the future not as a dream, but as a memory. These are signs that the new self is taking form. Not suddenly, not loudly, but steadily, naturally, inevitably. You may have noticed this pull already, a growing desire to be alone. Not lonely, but alone with yourself. A craving for quiet moments, for slow breaths, for gentle pauses where you are no longer performing for the world or defending your old assumptions. In these moments of solitude, something begins to unfold inside you. An inner spaciousness, a heightened awareness, a softening of the boundaries between what you desire and who you believe yourself to be. This quiet is not emptiness. It is preparation. It is the womb of your new reality forming itself in the unseen. Entering the silence is not about forcing the mind to stop. It is about letting the noise drift to the background while the deeper self steps forward. It is about resting your attention inward long enough for the feeling of your wish fulfilled to saturate your being. In this silence, imagination becomes more vivid, emotion becomes more precise, assumption becomes more natural. You begin to feel the new state as if it is speaking to you from within your body, through warm waves in your chest, through subtle shifts in your breathing, through the unmistakable sensation of alignment spreading through your entire field. There is something profoundly intimate about this inner sanctuary. It is where you commune with the version of yourself who already has what you seek. It is where you touch the reality that exists beyond the senses, yet feels more real than anything you have touched in the physical world. Neville taught that the door to this sanctuary is closed only by distraction and opened through quiet surrender. And each time you enter it, you strengthen the bridge between your current self and your fulfilled self. The two begin to merge. The distance dissolves, the identity shifts. As you spend more time in this inner stillness, you may notice that your outer world begins to matter less in determining your emotional state. Circumstances lose their authority. Other people's opinions soften into background noise. Even your old fears begin to lose their sharpness. This is a sign that your consciousness is stabilizing in the new state. You are no longer relying on the external world to give you comfort or reassurance. You are sourcing it from within. You are becoming the cause instead of reacting to the effect. You may have noticed how your mood before sleep affects you the next morning. Nights when you fall asleep anxious often lead to waking up with a heaviness that seems to have no clear cause. Nights when you drift off with a sense of peace create a morning that feels almost effortless. This is not coincidence. It is the law in motion. Sleep is not just rest for the body, it is renewal for the consciousness. Whatever emotional state lingers as you close your eyes becomes the silent command, the vibrational instruction that shapes the experiences to come. And the closer you move toward a manifestation, the more sensitive this window becomes. The subconscious begins to reorganize itself in preparation for the new identity you have assumed. There is a sacred intimacy to this. As your mind quiets and the boundary between imagination and reality softens, the state of the wish fulfilled becomes easier to embody. You no longer need to force it. You simply surrender into it as if slipping into warm water. Your breath deepens, your muscles loosen. Even your heartbeat responds, aligning itself with the emotional signature of your desired reality. In this state, you are no longer thinking about the end. You are feeling from it. You are inhabiting it. You are becoming the version of yourself who already lives there. And the subconscious, ever obedient, receives this identity as truth. This nighttime transition is one of the most powerful and overlooked signs that your manifestation is near. When you find yourself naturally drifting into imaginal scenes before sleep, When the desire feels real in your body, when a quiet sense of completion settles over you, when you begin to fall asleep as the person you want to be, rather than the person circumstances suggest you are, that is alignment. That is the seed being planted in fertile soil. That is the subconscious accepting a new command with complete receptivity. Nothing accelerates manifestation more than this nightly surrender into the fulfilled state. What is even more extraordinary is how life begins to respond after these nights. You may notice synchronicities the next day, unexpected conversations, intuitive impulses, a sense of inner clarity that seems to come from nowhere. These are the early blossoms of the seed you planted the night before. The subconscious does not operate through effort. It operates through inevitability. Whatever is impressed upon it must express itself. It cannot do otherwise. And when the impressions you carry into sleep are aligned with your desired reality, the outer world begins to rearrange itself with remarkable precision. This state often arrives without fanfare. One day the desire that once consumed your thoughts feels calm, grounded, almost ordinary, as if it were always part of your life. Your reactions shift. The need to check for signs fades. Doubt loses its sharpness. You walk through your day with a quiet assurance, sensing that life is simply arranging the final details. This inner rest is not indifference, it is fulfillment expressed through stillness. The mind stops questioning because the identity you have assumed feels complete. In the Sabbath, time no longer feels like an obstacle. You're not waiting for anything to happen. You are allowing the physical world to echo the truth already established within you. This is why Neville described the Sabbath as the moment when nothing more is required of you, not because the desire is distant, but because its creation is finished in consciousness. From here, your world begins to move with a precision that feels effortless. Conversations shift, opportunities unfold, the path clarifies without strain. Resting in the end is the final signal that your manifestation is near. You have become the person who naturally holds the reality once imagined. And when the inner shift is complete, the outer must follow quietly and inevitably, as the reflection of a truth you now live from. As you look back, you may notice how your relationship with desire has changed. It no longer feels like an object outside of you. It feels like a natural extension of your being. The world, once perceived as a set of obstacles or indicators, now appears as a mirror that cannot help but reflect your inner state. The need for external reassurance fades, replaced by a calm inner knowing that guides you with more clarity than any sign the world could offer. This knowing is not loud. It does not demand attention. It lives in the spaces between thoughts, in the quiet confidence that forms when the desire has already taken root in your identity. You may also realize that the shifts you once feared, the endings, the silence, the dissolving of old versions of yourself, were not signs of loss, but signs of arrival. Each chapter of this journey has been preparing you, shaping you, refining your inner atmosphere so that what you have asked for can land on solid ground. And now, as you stand in this awareness, you are no longer waiting. You are resting in the truth that the fulfillment has already begun to reveal itself. The greatest sign of all is the one you feel right now, the unmistakable sense that something within you has changed permanently. You are no longer the one who hopes. You have become the one who knows. And from this state, the world must reflect what you have accepted as real. Your manifestation is not approaching. It is unfolding through you, quietly, inevitably, as the natural expression of the self you have chosen to embody. If this awakened something in you, subscribe and stay connected to the state where your manifestations take form.